midweek edition of CNN 10. I'm Carl Azus. It's great to have you with us. Diving right in, the United Kingdom has made a trade deal with Switzerland. That's significant because the UK is scheduled to leave the European Union on March 29th, what's known as the Brexit. And Britain could lose the trade agreements it has with other countries if it breaks away from the European Union without a plan in place. So the British government says this deal with Switzerland is hugely important to British businesses, and lawmakers are under pressure to make more trade deals before the Brexit occurs. Prime Minister Theresa May has been working on an agreement with European Union officials on how to separate Britain from the bloc of 27 other countries. Last month, their initial plan failed to win the approval from British Parliament, which it'll need to go through. So Prime Minister May's been trying to find a new compromise with the European Union that Britain's Parliament will approve. And the clock is ticking because of the March 29th deadline. One sticking point in all this concerns Northern Ireland. When Britain leaves the European Union, the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland will become a physical border between Britain and the European Union. So what's become known as the Northern Ireland backstop has become a crucial part of the Brexit.
What is the backstop? At its simplest, it's an insurance policy to keep Europe's new land border with the UK just as it is today, invisible. So what's all the fuss? It's complicated. Let's start here. 2016, the UK referendum to leave the EU, Brexit. That's England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland all leaving. The snag, England, Scotland, Wales are on one island, while Northern Ireland is on another island with the Republic of Ireland, which remains in the EU. And that means, unlike the rest of the UK, Northern Ireland has a land border with the EU. Are you with me so far? So what's the problem, you might ask? Whack up a few customs posts and passport offices, and everything should be good. Not so fast, though. There is history here. A peace agreement in Northern Ireland in 1998 stipulated all border controls be removed. And that's the reason for the backstop. The backstop itself says, even if the EU and UK can't agree their new relationship, the border stays open. But the way that's shaking out, right now at least, means Northern Ireland slowly develops a different relationship with the EU than the rest of the UK. And that's the backstop in a nutshell. The problem comes with the last and biggest detail. The Northern Irish politicians, who the UK Prime Minister depends on for power, won't accept the backstop. And nor will many members of the Prime Minister's Conservative Party. They say it effectively creates a new border between the island of Ireland and the island of England, Scotland and Wales, and they won't accept it. It's a UK-EU impasse that has a lot of people worrying about the bloodshed before the peace agreement.
10-second trivia. Which two countries have the world's two largest economies? The US and China, China and Japan, the US and Japan, or China and the UK? The world's two most powerful economies in order are the US and China. And a slowdown in one of those economies can have ripple effects around the world. That's why investors are trying to figure out what to make of China's current slowdown, to find out how serious it is, because it can affect business decisions, hiring decisions, and where investors in China and abroad decide to put their money. The CEO of the China Beige Book, a US-based economic advisory firm, says the gross domestic product figures posted by China's communist government are unreliable. So as different investment groups work to draw up their own estimates of how China's economy is doing, CNN's Matt Rivers gives a sense of what Chinese consumers are saying themselves.
So I've lived in China now since 2015, and one of the first things I noticed when I got here was this sense of economic optimism, that when it comes to individual opportunity, things were looking good. But over the last couple months, there's a thought that maybe that's begun to change. To be fair, there's a lot of reasons to be pessimistic these days. For starters, there's that giant trade war you might have heard of. China also just posted its slowest annual GDP growth rate since 1990, and the main stock market lost more than a quarter of its value since early last year. Things have cooled enough that you don't have to be an economist to notice.
现在接近年底了嘛，特别是像我们这种。
We usually settle payments with our clients before the Chinese New Year, but this year is particularly difficult to get our payments on time.
Zhang Yuqi works in construction and renovation and says a rough real estate market means her clients aren't selling as many apartments as before. It's enough to make her think about her own spending habits. She's now using an app that lets her pay for big-ticket items over time, like a new car.
We can't afford to buy it at its full price, but we can choose to buy it in small installments and pay it back month by month.
In 2018, China new car sales shrunk for the first time in 20 years. iPhone sales were off 15%, and luxury brands could face a tough 2019. In a slowing economy, what people choose to spend their disposable income on changes.
Working out isn't like eating or housing. Those are must-haves. Working out isn't.
Zhou Cheng owns a gym in Beijing that has seen slowing sales this year, a trend he says has forced other gyms to close throughout the city.
Most people already have housing loans, car loans, and so on. Only when they can lower that pressure a little bit can they consider other needs like working out.
Amid slowing traditional growth drivers like manufacturing, China is depending on consumer spending to support the economy. A recent consumer confidence survey by Beijing-based Capital University puts 2018's fourth quarter index at 99.4. Anything below 100 means consumers aren't optimistic overall about the economy. Now, some economists say there are still plenty of reasons to be optimistic about the Chinese consumer. Spending on services rather than goods, think travel, leisure, healthcare, is actually up. There's a big tax cut that could be in play this year, and retail sales will still grow. But the fact that I can easily come out on the street here and find multiple people who will tell me that they're worried about the economy, well, that's different than it was when I first got here. Matt Rivers, CNN, Beijing.
A study involving bees and mathematics is generating some buzz. Get it? Researchers at RMIT University in Australia say honeybees can be trained to add and subtract. What they did was put the insects into a Y-shaped container and show them blue or yellow shapes. The blue ones were supposed to symbolize addition, the yellow ones subtraction. Then the bees had a decision to make. If they were shown blue shapes first, they had to choose to fly to the chamber that displayed one more shape than they first saw. If they saw yellow shapes, they had to fly to the chamber that showed one fewer shape. Correct decisions were rewarded with sugar water, which they like, and incorrect ones with bitter-tasting quinine, which they don't. After 100 trials like this, the insects were tested without sugar water or quinine, and scientists say they chose the correct chamber between 63 and 72% of the time. So they didn't ace the exam, but they reportedly did well enough to demonstrate they'd learned something. So what? Well, this probably won't help the bees themselves, but researchers say it helps scientists better understand the relationship between brain size and brain power, that it shows animals might have a better understanding of numbers than scientists thought, and that the study could be used to help develop artificial intelligence by improving a system's ability to learn faster. Of course, artificial intelligence systems still have a lot to learn, as seen at a recent debate between a human debate champion and an IBM computer named Project Debater.
Greetings, Harish. I've heard you hold the world record in debate competition wins against humans, but I suspect you've never debated a machine.
The machine had been uploaded with newspaper and magazine articles related to the debate topic, and it was supposed to take into account its human opponent's statements and forming its arguments. While Project Debater, the computer, was defeated, it still showed that AI systems are progressing toward increasingly complex tasks. You could say its style was robotic, but still it was a little bit hypnotic. It made sound bites news bites, and though it still would lose, it might take something monotone like robot voicemails on a phone and turn them into arguments that makes you wonder, are you meant to debate a debate machine, the kind that fakes a human being, the kind that seems relatable and makes debates debatable? It's all up for debate, I guess. I'm Carl Azus on the Loose with CNN.